All right, ladies and gentlemen, guys, we'd like to welcome you to the show. This is your host of the evening, DJ Just Jay with Just Dimes ENT. We're here to talk about a story. It is going to include some very graphic detail. Okay? So I'm going to encourage you guys that if you are sensitive to the type of things that we talk about here, there are going to be some graphic details about a murder that was committed against a 10-year-old boy. If you guys don't want to hear that type of information, if you guys don't like my commentary, if you guys don't like me or my channel or this face that you're looking at right now, then all I do is ask you guys to just exit my video. No need to flaggy my video, right? So for everybody that understands that, then here's the story. But for everybody else, just hit that red X in the top right corner. Just exit the channel. For everybody else, here's the story. Now, this is an update to a story that happened recently, and I'm going to show you guys some of the videos that led up to that here momentarily. And there was a Los Angeles Superior Court judge Monday ordered an unsealing of transcripts of a grand jury proceedings that involved a case of the death of a 10-year-old boy who was posthumous. His name is Anthony Avalos, and I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that name, because all while I was in school, we had a lot of Latin descent people there, and I believe you pronounce A-V-A-L-O-S as Avalos, okay? You guys are going to be looking at some of the photos from the funeral. You're going to see some photos of that beautiful little boy. You're going to see some photos of the ones that actually committed this heinous act. Eyewitness News have obtained a copy of the lengthy document, and it is a little lengthy, so you guys kick back and relax, and it describes in detail what actually happened to Anthony during the last day of his life, so it's going to be pretty graphic. Now, Anthony's mother, Heather Barron, there's a reason why I'm doing this story. Of course, you guys know I usually do stories on the black community. We advocate for children first here at the So Do You Dig. There's a story that definitely advocates for children in a way where I say the children need the mother and father in the household. I don't want you guys to misunderstand this story. Heather Barron is the mother. The other gentleman that is charged in this story, his name is Kareem Ernesto Leyva. He is not the father. He is the boyfriend. I want everybody to pick that up. Heather Maxine Barron, age 28, and her boyfriend, Kareem Ernesto Leyva, age 32, he is not the father of this kid. Again, I always advocate and say we need a nuclear family, DNA mother and DNA father in the household. Why? Because if it is a father in the household that is not the DNA father of these kids, and more times than none, you might see something like this happen. You usually don't have a DNA mother and father in the household, and that's him right there. When you don't have that dynamic and those two people are abusive, it's usually going to be a really, really bad ending for that kid. And this is going to be an example of that. You usually don't have that when the mother and father are in the household, okay? So here we go. Anthony's mother, Heather Barron, and her boyfriend, Kareem Leyva, are charged with torturing and murdering the 10-year-old boy. The grand jury heard the evidence the prosecutor has against the defendants and decided to indict them. The assistant district attorney in the case, Jonathan Hatami, described to the grand jurors in his opening statement what Leyva and Barron allegedly did to Anthony prior to his death on June 20th of 2018. So this is all very recent. So this is an ongoing case. That's a picture of him in the hospital, and that's gotta break your damn heart, man. I keep wondering. Look at that face. Like, what possibly could have a 10-year-old have done to piss off two adult human beings enough to put that boy in the hospital? Y'all look at that. Put him in the hospital and killed him, but it gets way worse. So for the people that are watching, please hit the thumbs up. Share the show so people will know that we're live. Texas 2301, I believe they are, yes, to answer your question. If I'm wrong about them being Mexican or of Latin descent, you guys can always correct me in the comments section after the video is over, okay? Let's keep going. Now, the coroner's report documented injuries all over Anthony's body, and Hatami had told the grand jury. There were injuries to Anthony's side and his hip area, both his left and his right hip, his arms, and even injuries to his feet. Hatami said Anthony had bruises and abrasions all over his entire body, including abrasions and bruises around his face and his nose and forehead. He had circular marks on his stomach and below his nipple, multiple abrasions on both knees and on his back, contusions and scabs on all 4 of his extremities. Again, guys, if you can't handle this, just exit the video. It's going to get worse, a lot worse. Okay? He appeared to be thin with rib exposure. You guys know what that means? If you guys know what that means, if you're watching the show live, type it in the chat. That's a term called emaciated. They didn't put that in the transcript, but I'm going to tell you guys because we learned that word during one of our other previous shows. When these children are to the point to where they are so thin that you see rib exposure from a 10-year-old, they're starving him. Thank you, Darcy Ann. They starved out a 10-year-old. Malnutrition is one thing. Starving them out is something intentional, meaning like you're not giving them anything at all. That is severely starving someone. A human being, let alone a child. They starved the poor boy. Thank you, Jimmy D. To the point to where he was thin and had rib exposure. He had abrasions to his face, both knees, multiple bruises to the abdomen, hips, arms, on his butt, on his back. He had sunken in eyes and small circular burns. The coroner's report indicated that there was blunt force trauma to his head and his brain, and also multiple blunt force trauma to his body. Wow. The prosecutor told the grand jury that Barone and Leva committed these heinous acts by beating Anthony with belts, which is something else we're going to talk about. I feel like any parent in 2018 going forward that makes a conscious decision to corporally punish their children should not be parents. I'll say that one more time. If you spank your kids, if you beat your kids, if you physically punish your children, corporal punishment, you should severely rethink being a parent. If you want to know why, or if you need some personal counseling about other ways to be able to discipline your children, keyword discipline, then let me know. That's something we could definitely talk about, because maybe we need to talk more deeply about this, because too many people think that corporal punishment is okay just because we had it done to us, and just because their parents had it done to them, and just because their parents had it done to them. That's something that absolutely needs to stop. Period. No more spankings, no more whoopings, no more beatings, none of that. It all needs to stop. Because I'm going to tell you guys something. If your children do not respect your word, if your children, if you cannot raise your children to think rationally and respect you to the point to where when you say something, that thing goes, then you failed as a parent. I don't have to physically put my hands, feet, or other objects on my daughter to get her to do a thing. And my baby ain't no little bitty baby no more. Now my baby's growing up. She's tall. She's amazing. And I think if she really wanted to, at this point, she might be able to physically overpower her mother. And that's just to be real honest. So I've told her and her mother long time ago, this is how we're going to do things, which is why it's important to have a father around. So it's to the point to where we encourage our daughter, we love our daughter, and our daughter respects us, that when we ask her to do something, not only does she understand that she needs to do it without question, but now she understands the why, and she has the right to ask the why. So that way going forward, That way going forward, she can rationalize it in her mind. And so I want to always encourage you people to remember that when it comes to leading a child, the best way that you can lead a child is with understanding, okay? So we got to stop this whooping children, beating children. We got to get out of that mindset to think that that's okay. But check this out. Not only did they beat Anthony with belts, but they beat him with a vacuum hose, a vacuum cord. They used their fist. They used wrestling moves. They used chokeholds. They used their feet. They slapped him in the face and tortured him by making him kneel on rice with hot sauce, slammed his head against the floor, and locked him in his room for days. Miss Parker Lynn said exactly what I've been saying and why it's so important for our channel and what we're doing here, and that we continue to grow. Because we advocate for children, we need to get people to understand that there is zero excuse for people abusing children. Why? Because they are 100% defenseless and they are at the mercy of anybody that is raising them. They can't defend themselves against anything, not against words, not against physical harm, not against anything. They are completely dependent on us for food, water, shelter, and protection, for everything. I'm going to read to you guys one more time what all they beat him with. They used belts. They used a vacuum hose. They used a vacuum cord. They used their fists. They used quote unquote wrestling moves, meaning they probably slammed him. Or I can't even imagine. What are wrestling moves? Where's the discipline in that? Like, come on, man. They used chokeholds. They used their feet, meaning they probably kicked him, slapped him in the face, a 10-year-old, tortured him by making him kneel on dry rice. They used hot sauce. More than likely, probably put it in his mouth or put it in his face or in his eyes. They didn't specify. But it would have to be something that could immediately affect him, meaning probably his mouth or his eyes. They slammed his head against the floor, and they locked him in his room for days, meaning he couldn't eat, he couldn't drink, and he could not use the bathroom. Okay? They did not provide him with food and water, like I've already said, and they made him hold books and weights and made him fight his siblings. Now, where have we heard that before? Where have we heard this before? About grown adults making children fight. Where have we heard this? Possibly at the Soto You Dig. About the Fight Club stories that we've done at the daycares. Guys, remember that? You guys kind of see how all of this is tying together? Fight Club, daycare Fight Club. In this case, Barone and Levia had this little boy, Anthony Avalos, fighting his siblings. Evidence will clearly show that Levia and Barone are ultimately responsible for the torture and even murder of Anthony, the prosecutor said. Hatami concluded in his opening statements that evidence will show who Anthony's biological mother, Anthony's biological mother and Levia, who's 6'1", 200 pounds, brutally tortured and intentionally murdered 10-year-old Anthony. That's the mother, and the other guy is the boyfriend, Okay? Now, the prosecutor asked the grand jury to hold the defendants responsible for Anthony's murder. The grand jury also heard from Anthony Avalos' 8-year-old sister. Okay? Now, according to Hatami, she was abused too by her mother, Heather Barone, and her mother's boyfriend, Kareem Levia. So they abused the 8-year-old younger sister also. Now, Hatami showed the girl various pictures of her and her siblings, and she told the grand jury who they were, including Leva and her mother, Barone. And they asked, "Do you still love your mom?" And the girl responded and said yes. She also said she misses Anthony. Man. Oh, Lord. Let's keep going. Hatami showed the girl a picture and asked her to describe what it was. She said one day hers, they said hers. She said one day hers, that's what was written. I'm sure that's a typo. And Anthony's 7-year-old brother were in trouble, and Leva made him kneel in the corner. If you don't do that, you cry because it hurts. You would get rice there and go on your knees, the girl recalled. Meaning made him kneel on rice. Dry rice, by the way. The girl said after she and her brothers were done with the punishment, and I like that word punishment because that's exactly what they did. They punished, not disciplined. There's a big difference between those two words. The punishment of kneeling on rice, she would have to clean it all up. Was there any blood on the rice, they asked. And the girl responded, yes. So they made them kneel on this rice for so damn long that it made their knees bleed. How many of you guys caught that? 203 people watching, hit the thumbs up, please, when you come in. They made them kneel on rice for so long that it made their knees bleed. Justin Tanner said, I hope the people that accuse you of being a racist are watching this. Shout out to the Soto you dig. That's my point. Because the people will turn around and say that I hate my race and the videos that I do only target the black community. Well, I've told you guys we advocate for children first here at the Soto you dig. I've been telling you guys that. The black community is the canary in the coal mine, which is exactly how I built this channel. We use black people as an example to point out to the world what's really going on. We are the macrocosm of the bigger picture of what's going on in America because we are the smaller community based on the numbers of everyone else. So the bullcrap that goes on to us and the things that we don't see as a problem now become a bigger problem for everybody else. This is one story among hundreds of others and even 10 to maybe 50 other videos that I have that I could be doing for you guys to point out the larger problem. The larger problem is the fact that if we had DNA fathers in the households with these mothers, that a lot of this stuff would cease. The mass majority, hashtag not all, but the mass majority of this would cease. Okay? That's been my narrative this entire time. I'm going to continue to keep giving you stories all the way through the rest of 2018, going up into 2019. Guys, let's keep this going, okay? Now, they also cried while they were kneeling on rice, and she said Levia would not let up until the crying stopped. Meaning they had to stop crying, which is also mental torture, while their knees are bleeding on freaking rice, which is just asinine, man. Anthony's sister told the grand jury that he had lots of quote-unquote boo-boos, obviously injuries, on his knees because he was forced onto the rice a lot. And one time, Kareem dragged him on the carpet and he got a rug burn, the girl recalled. She also said sometimes they would have to stand in the corner from when they'd get home until 8 p.m. once they got home from school. Did you guys catch that? P-Man 007, guys, we're really just getting into the nitty gritty of this story, bro. So you're right on time. From the time they got home from school, let's roughly say 3 p.m. He would force them to stand in the corner until 8 p.m. 5 hours. Keep in mind, if he was emaciated, that means he didn't have anything to drink, anything to eat, and could not use the bathroom 4 to 5 hours from the time he got home from school. Let me ask you guys a question. Let's bring this back into a reality that maybe some of us can understand. Let's understand something. How many people are parents to children that are school age? Elementary school age. How many people have good enough memory to remember when they were in school and when you came home from school, first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, what did you guys, when you were that age, when you got home from school, what was it that you wanted to do when you got home? Let's talk about this in the chat for a moment. When you guys got home from school, what was it that you wanted to do? I can already tell you, I know what I wanted to do when I got home from school. I wanted to watch my cartoons, I wanted to snack, and I wanted to maybe even take a nap. And not in any particular order. More times than none, I would want to eat. I would want to play video games, watch cartoons, go outside and play. Thank you. Any number of things. Play with your friends. You know what, Chevelle? You are calling out our age over here, sir. Don't call out my age now. You letting people know how old we are, man. Because I ain't gonna lie. When I was that age, I used to go either my friends would come over our house, or I would usually go over my friend's house because he had a grandmother that he stayed with. And, you know, because obviously working age parents weren't there by the time we got out of school. So we had to go over somebody's house and we would play the Atari 2600. Before the Nintendo came out. That's calling out our age right there. We had to play the Atari 2600. Some of y'all might have had Nintendos. Some of y'all might have had some other stuff. That's what we grew up on. So I want you guys to imagine, while we're being funny for a moment, we want to bring a little levity to the show. But let's think about this. Real talk. How many of you guys would be in mental anguish if you came home and the first damn thing you had to do because mommy's boyfriend was pissed off either at her or about something going on in life, or just pissed off in general because he don't like you, because you are not his biological seed, so he don't give a damn about you, and maybe because he sees the dude that this woman slept with in you, and he decides to make you stand in the corner from the moment you walk through the door. Go get in the corner and stand there with nothing to drink, nothing to eat, can't go to the bathroom. And keep in mind, he might have had to do this being in the corner, kneeling on dry rice to the point to where his knees would bleed, and stay there for 4 to 5 hours. Because he know he does not stand a chance against this dude that's 6'1", 200 pounds. That is a sizable dude compared to a 10-year-old boy. Everybody catch that? Let's keep going. Sometimes we would like to go into the hallway, the little wall in between my room and my mom's room, and we would go there on our knees and carry books, and with 2 weights on top tied all together, and we would have to hold it for like 10 minutes. The girl described. What about if you couldn't hold them? Hatami asked, and she said, if the books would fall, we would have to start all over again and get another hour, she said. Anthony's sister testified, keep in mind, that's coming from an 8-year-old girl. Anthony's sister testified that one time, as punishment, Leva had Anthony carry a brick inside the house. Someone threw a brick in our car, and so he took it out on So he took it out from the backyard and bring it to Anthony and had him carry it. Hatami asked if Anthony looked sad, and she said, yes, he was crying, she responded. They have typos in here, so if I'm reading this slightly improperly, that's probably why. What did mommy do? The prosecutor inquired, and she said she was just in the room yelling at him to stop crying, the girl said. So when my older brother, me, and Anthony were in trouble, we would go on the rice and Kareem would spank us with the belt on our feet. The girl told the grand jury. It hurt, so we were crying. She said her mother hit her and Anthony and her older brother with a belt on their bottoms once. The girl also described Leva using what they quote as wrestling moves on them. So the boys would be in trouble, so Kareem would have me and my older brother beat up Anthony or me, and Anthony beat up my older brother, the girl told the grand jury. Again, Fight Club. Kareem would just have us pinch him or sock him. If you guys aren't familiar with the term sock, punch. Sorry, I got something in my lungs. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. The girl said her mother was sometimes watching the whole thing and never asked anyone to stop. The girl said both Leva and her mother would make them do what they quote as captain's chair, where one stands against the wall with knees bent like sitting in a chair, and if they moved or cried, she said, they'd have to start all over again. They would have to do a thing called captain's chair, where one stands against the wall with their knees bent like sitting in a chair, and if they moved or cried, she said they'd have to start all over again. She testified that if they didn't do the punishment right, they would have to do exercises from a workout list. Anthony's sister told the jury Leva beat Anthony with a vacuum cord while her mother watched. She said the siblings were forced sometimes to eat plain peanut butter sandwiches or peanut butter on a corn tortilla. Kareem would time us for 2 minutes or 5 minutes to eat the tortilla or sandwich, and if we didn't get it on time because it's nasty, we would get sriracha or tapatio on it, she said. If they didn't eat this nasty ass sandwich that they forced them to eat in a 2 to 5 minute time frame, they would put hot sauce on the goddamn thing. Keep in mind, these are 7, 8, and 10-year-old children. Defenseless children. Look at this baby, guys. That's 10-year-old Anthony Avalos in the hospital. Let's go back to that photo, because I want you guys to take another look at this. That's a 10-year-old boy. That is the end result of the suffering from 2 grown-ass people. One being the mother, which is egregious by itself, and the other being the boyfriend, because the boyfriend, it's not his son. Obviously, he don't give a damn about this human life. Kitten Paws said peanut butter is difficult to eat and you can choke on it. So imagine if that's possible, how much worse is it if this fucking idiot, excuse my language, turns around and dumps hot sauce on it also because you didn't eat it in time? That's supposed to be a punishment? Boy. Jesus Christ. Anyway, she said Leva put an alarm on the boy's bedroom door because one time her younger brother sneaked out into the middle of the night to look for food. Joyce Lago said, hashtag where's the father? You guys wonder why she posted that in the chat? It's because that's the question that we always ask in these stories. Because when the father is not around, these type of horrible things happen to these children that don't deserve this. Hashtag where are the fathers? The women apparently don't think the fathers are important enough to have in their life, so they go get some raggedy ass boyfriend, and guess what the two of them produce? Violence against children. These two assholes. I'm going to give you their names again. Don't go away from the picture, go back. Let's take a look at these faces. That's Heather Maxine Barone, age 28, and her boyfriend, Kareem Ernesto Leyva, age 32 years old. I'm going to tell you guys a little story real quick before I show you guys the video. 213 people watching. Please hit the thumbs up. I would hope that we can share this story and get at least 300 people here. Maybe 400. Just hit the thumbs up. If you don't want to donate, that's cool, but at least hit the thumbs up. I'm going to tell you guys something that breaks my heart before anything in this world. If you want to see something that breaks me down to my core, it's because of this. I moved out of my mom and dad's house a little bit too early. They had a lot of rules. I didn't like the rules. My dad always told me if you don't like the rules, then you make the rules when you move out on your own. So I thought I was grown. I had me a job. I thought I could make it on my own, me and my roommate. So me and him moved out together. And come to find out, trying to pay bills and live on your own is a hard damn thing to do. So there were a lot of days that and now I don't want you guys to get it twisted. If I would have told my parents I needed help, they would have helped me. But me trying to be grown and independent, I said, hey, if I don't got it, I don't got it. So I remember it was days and nights when I really didn't know where my next meal from myself was coming from. I missed meals. And thank God the fact that I had a job that what we did was we made food. I used to work at this place called Taco Mayo. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that. But thank God for me working there because there were days I actually got to eat for free. So shout out to my bosses. If they ever see this, they know who they are. And I want to say thank you to them. I love them eternally forever. But it wasn't because my parents wouldn't help me. I chose not to tell them because I wanted to be independent and do it on my own. But I know what that hunger pain is like. So when I got older and later on in life, when I was able to actually provide for myself and even do for others, even to the point that when I had my daughter, when I see somebody that's hungry or somebody that's asking or they're homeless or something, I've never understood how a homeless person, supposedly if they're hungry and can't eat, why they'll ask you for money, but they'll turn down food. I think that's weird. Does anybody understand where I'm coming from? Have any of you guys ever experienced the time where you've tried to give a homeless person some food and they was like, nah, I'd rather have some money? Excuse the fuck out of me. I don't eat turkey sandwiches, or I don't like tomatoes, or what? When I was out struggling, I didn't give a damn what you gave me. I didn't give a damn if it was great value, Sam's Club. I was eating it and I was drinking it. I don't care what it was. You offer me some food, I'm going to eat it. If you going to cook for me, I'm going to eat it. I don't give a damn if it's your first time cooking. When I first moved to Texas, I'll never forget the day that a homeless person walked up on me and I was going to go eat. And the brother asked me, he was like, hey man, look, I haven't ate all day and I'm really, really hungry. I'm not asking for no money. He said, can you buy me something to eat? And guys, it broke my heart. It don't break my heart. I'm sorry. When people ask for money from me, kiss my ass. Sorry, not giving you no money. When they ask for food, I don't give a damn if it's my last dime. And this is why I appreciate the people that feel me in my heart, in my chest, in my soul when I speak to you guys through this camera. For the people that feel like they know me, this is how I am in real life. Ask me for food, and by damn it, even if it's my last dollar, I'm going to make sure that you get something. I took that brother in with me. I said, you come in with me. I gave him a menu, and I said, order anything on the menu you want. Let's just say he was very thankful. He tried to give me a hug. I'm a little germaphobe, but he tried to give me a hug and he told me, brother, thank you so much. That wasn't the first time I've done it, and it definitely was not the last time I did it. You guys if you guys follow me on Instagram, there was a time where I don't post it every time I do it, but there was a time where I actually did post where I picked up a father and his daughter. Did the same exact thing. But it's just something about it that shakes me to my core. When people can't eat. The very essential thing that we absolutely have to do. I've always said this. If you give a homeless person some food, that'll at least ensure that they'll live to see another day, and eventually they can figure out how to make sure that they don't need to get themselves back in that same position. You at least give them a chance to see another day. That alone is help in itself. They will live to see another day. And I'm not trying to be too sad on you guys, but I'm just throwing out there from my personal experience and telling you how I feel when I read a story like this. And I'm going to tell you guys this. I'm a level with you. Heather Maxine Barone, age 28, the mother, and the boyfriend Kareem Ernesto Leyva, age 32. I don't care what your family says to me. I don't care if your family threatens me or anything like that. They say that these people could possibly get the death penalty. I hope you get it. I hope they rule against you, and I hope you get it. I hope the state wins. I hope the family on the boy's side gets their justice. The fact that you thought so little of these human lives, 7, 8, and 10 years old. They put an alarm on the boy's door because one time he snuck out of his bedroom in the middle of the night to look for food. Do you guys understand how much that bothers me? He didn't sneak outside to go steal from nobody, to go vandalize no property, to go fool around with no girl, to get into no shenanigans. What was the reason he snuck out in the middle of the night out of his bedroom? Because his little tummy was growling. It hurt. He was in pain. His body physically couldn't tolerate it anymore. And this baby boy said, I have to end this pain at risk of getting my ass whooped and my ass handed to me by 2 grown people. And I need to go in here and quench this starving in my stomach. It hurts and I want it to stop. That's what this little boy was saying. I could punch my TV screen right now. I'm so upset at this story. If I was this dude's neighbor, God only knows what I'd do to them. They put an alarm on a child's bedroom door just to make sure he starves and does not eat. I'm going to get myself in trouble tonight. I might get flaggy tonight. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in that part of the story. We'll come back to it. They said that since we are in trouble, we can't have real food. They say that's a privilege. That's what the girl said in court. As to what happened to Anthony, his sister said, a lot of times he got hurt, and one morning he woke up and he was acting a little weird. So my mom said that they were going to take him to the hospital, and Anthony said he wanted to go to sleep. So my mom let him sleep for a little while, and he woke up and said he wasn't breathing. The night before, my mom was, and there's another, why is that a space in there? I don't know. The night before my mom was, and there's a space, told Anthony that they was going to the hospital. Kareem picked him up from his armpits and dropped him on the floor, the girl recalled. He did it about 10 times. When Anthony wasn't waking up the next morning, the girl said her mother threw cold water on him. She then said her mother carried Anthony downstairs and he looked frozen, meaning he hadn't been breathing, so his skin was probably blue and purple because he had no oxygen. He was dead. So Barone then called 911. If the boy had an accident because they were locked in their rooms and could not go to the bathroom, the girl said the boys would have to sleep on the floor. Kareem would hold their legs and make them lay down and put their face in the pee. Oh my Jesus. When the police or social workers came to the house, the girl said she lied to them because her mother told her not to talk about Levi, the boyfriend, because they didn't know he was there. She said her mom got mad because Anthony would cry a lot when he was in trouble. And she said Anthony and her older brother would get punished pretty much every day. The girl said Levi, the boyfriend, would also slap her mom, and that only she, Anthony, and her older brother were disciplined all the time and not the other children. At the other end of the prosecutor's questions, several grand jurors asked their questions as well. The girl was then excused and asked to keep everything that happened inside a secret. The grand jury is composed of 25 members of the community who are tasked to hear the evidence and arguments presented by the prosecutor and decide whether an indictment is warranted or not. The defendants are not present during the grand jury proceeding, and there is no defense attorney either. The hearings are all secret, and the transcripts are sealed until the grand jury comes to an end. Guys, again, these people could face the death penalty, and I hope that the state wins their case. I know that's a harsh thing to say. No child deserves what they got. Let's read this fair usage. Let's get these videos started. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. And I want to apologize to the people that are watching this on the live. For the people in the chat, guys, let's not argue with each other. I know it's a sensitive topic, but I want to allow everybody to have their say-so, please, okay? So let's not direct our comments at each other. More or less, let's just talk about the story, okay? If you would. Let's not direct our vitriol at each other. I know we're all upset at this story. I know most of you guys because I see you guys chatting here all the time, okay? For everybody else that's new that's watching, 235 people watching, hit the thumbs up. Please share the show. It'll let other people know that we're alive. So please hit that thumbs up. Let's put our energy into that, okay?
Calls for help possibly ignored, and a 10-year-old child paid the ultimate price.
Troubling new revelations are surfacing tonight about a child abuse investigation in Lancaster. KCAL Night's Christy Fajardo is live with more. Christy.
Peter and Crystal, we want to be clear, no one has been charged in the case, and the boy's mother has reportedly said he fell. But the LA Times is reporting tonight that the child had severe head injuries and cigarette burns all over his body. And the newspaper says there had been a history of documented abuse.
Now, I didn't know about the cigarette burns. That's probably what they were talking about, the red circles. Damn. Now, these next 4 videos I'm gonna show you guys are leading up to where they got arrested, and then I'm gonna show you guys the most current story. Okay, so these are old, and then they're gonna get progressively newer. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going.
4 years before his death, the LA Times says law enforcement and social workers had been told 10-year-old Anthony Avalos was being abused. Citing anonymous sources who reviewed documents in the case, the newspaper says a teacher, school administrators, even family members called police or the child abuse hotline at least 16 times in the last 5 years. Still, Avalos was left in his Lancaster home.
He told us that he would get locked up and he wasn't allowed to use the bathroom.
That was Avalos' aunt at a vigil in his honor on Thursday. Tonight, Maria Barone tells us in 2015, she called authorities on her sister-in-law and her boyfriend.
You guys hear that? I don't know how much she knew was wrong, but she knew at least enough that she did her due diligence. Understand that. That's the aunt by way of marriage. Did her due diligence and called CPS. That's what she's legally supposed to do. And again, I don't want you guys to be mad at CPS or anything like that, okay? Because the thing is, I still personally don't believe it's their responsibility to save and raise these children. It is the biological mother and biological father's responsibility, their God-given responsibility at the end of the day. The state comes in second and thirdary to everything else. Secondary, maybe other portions of the family. Thirdary, as the last result, maybe the state. I will never ever put the complete blame of the failure of raising a child on the state, because it's not the state's responsibility to raise children. We are humans and we procreate in private, so we should raise them in private and turn around and take care of them, love, cherish, and nurture them. That's our responsibility as parents. So I just want to clear that up. Okay, let's keep going.
After she noticed bruising, and Anthony and his siblings told her they were being abused and forced to eat trash. But she says after a visit with their mother, the children...
I did not know that either. They said they were forced to eat trash. Jesus.
...recanted parts of their story, and they were sent back to live with her, and were then cut off from the rest of the family. Barone says other family members and friends had reported the abuse too.
Anthony deserves justice, and the rest of my nieces and nephews do not deserve to go back to her.
From Mexico, Anthony's father tells us his mother also reported her suspicions her grandson was being abused after seeing scratches on...
That was the father right there. They say he's in Mexico, so I don't really know what the story is with that.
Do not deserve to go back to her.
From Mexico, Anthony's father tells us his mother also reported her suspicions her grandson was being abused after seeing scratches on Anthony.
I would talk to him on the camera and I would ask him, how you doing? You know, are you okay?
That's Victor Avalos. That's the father. Hashtag where's the father? Here he is. Victor or anybody else in the family, you guys, see my email address right here in the bottom. If y'all know him, know how to contact him, or if any family is watching, you guys can always contact me. And I respond to any and everybody that contacts me about these stories, especially if it's family related, okay? Because I would definitely love to know where he's at, why he's at, and anything else pertinent to this story.
You need something? And he would just put his head down.
Victor Avalos says he tried to fight for custody of Anthony, but lacked the proper paperwork to come to the U.S. to get him.
There you go. So there's the answer. Damn, that's crazy.
Now he'd like answers from his ex and from authorities.
Just don't know why social workers never did a full investigation.
Wow. Well, there's at least one answer.
Owners will gather in the Antelope Valley this morning to remember a Lancaster boy allegedly tortured and killed by his mother and her boyfriend.
CBS 2's Candace Crone is live right outside a church in Quartz Hill where Anthony Avalos' funeral is going to take place. Candace.
Yeah, and dozens of family and friends and even perfect strangers will gather here at St. Junipero Sarah Parish.
You know what? KW's 0728 just said something, and that made me think about it. They said you wouldn't even treat a dog this way. I want you guys to think about this. They have stricter laws against treating animals like this. Do you guys know how much time in jail you could get behind treating an animal like this? Think about that. I'll read you guys in the chat. Thank you, KW0728. This is my first time seeing you in my chat. You would actually get more time, or you would definitely get jail time for treating an animal like this. Let's keep going.
This morning to remember a little boy who was taken too soon. We have some pictures of Anthony. He's described as a brave kid who loved sports and dancing.
Kydra Manuel said, CPS doesn't do anything. I knew of a child that was being starved and they didn't do anything. And they sent the 3-month-old back to the parent and the parent wouldn't turn over their rights. Right. I feel that. Everybody in the United States at this point should know that CPS is severely lacking in properly making rulings on these situations. As you guys know, I did the story about Anaya Day Garrett. I'll keep telling you guys about that story and a bunch of these other stories where the system fails the children. So I always say this, let's go back to the source. Because if we go back to the source, usually we can fix a problem. When you go to the outer areas of a problem, you generally won't find a solution. The solution is to fix it at the source, the mother and father, the yin and the yang, the push and the pull, the biological mother and father. That is where the care, nurture, and protection should always start, and it really should end there also. Okay, let's keep going.
The 10-year-old was brutally beaten and tortured in the days leading up to his death. Anthony's mother, 28-year-old Heather Barron, and her boyfriend, 32-year-old Kareem Leva, have both been charged in the boy's murder. Authorities say that he had come out as gay in the weeks before his death, and prosecutors are trying to determine if homophobia may have played a role in his murder.
Did you guys hear that? I'm gonna rewind it so you can hear it.
He had come out as gay in the weeks before his death, and prosecutors are trying to determine if homophobia may have played a role in his murder.
One more time. Let's hear that again.
Say that he had come out as gay in the weeks before his death, and prosecutors are trying to determine if homophobia may have played a role in his murder.
They're saying a 10-year-old boy came out. First of all, why are we even having that conversation? What are they teaching these children? I'm sorry to the LGBT community, but y'all are real screwed up, man. Seriously. LGBTQ and all that stuff has to do with sexuality. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you for saying what I was saying. How in the hell does a 10-year-old know he's sexually attracted to other boys? He wants to... Because y'all know I'm going to get flagged over here. How does he know he wants to sexually participate in actions that would deem him to be homosexual as a 10-year-old boy? As a 10-year-old boy, I knew I liked girls. I don't think I started really like mentally, maybe in teenage years, 13, 14. Yeah, maybe. I remember noticing boobs and stuff like that when I was in my teenage years. 13, 14, 15, 16. 10 years old. So that would mean he was like a 3rd or 4th grader. So if they're saying that this abuse spawned because he quote unquote came out as gay, if this had been going on for years, then that would have to mean that supposedly he came out to say that he was quote unquote homosexual at the age of like 7 or 8 years old. Now why does a 7 and 8-year-old boy know about sex and having sex with other boys? Take a pen, bookmark it in that part of the story. We'll come back to that.
We have video of Anthony's father, who held a news conference on Tuesday. He's calling for a criminal investigation of the social workers connected to his son. Victor Avalos believes that the social workers failed to remove the boy from his mother's home despite years of documented abuse. And had the Department of Child and Family Services acted sooner, his son might still be alive. Back at her live, the funeral starts at 10 o'clock this morning, and Anthony was a big superhero fan, so his family is asking that anyone who attends this morning wear a superhero t-shirt in his honor.
Shout out to my biker brother Bubba. I know he had to, and I told you guys about this before, he had to bury his son, which was extremely sad, but he was a big Superman fan, and everybody dressed up in Superman attire, and I just hate the fact that, man, when you have to bury a child, man, it's a hard thing, man. It's a really hard thing to have to watch. Bodacious J, when you guys ask questions, I love the questions because I like having answers to those questions. That's definitely one I would like an answer to for sure. Because if you guys think about the fact that he was being starved and beaten and thrown in wrestling moves and burnt with cigarettes, and like it doesn't sound like there's any limit to the type of abuse that he probably received. So let's not rule that out. 245 people still watching. Hit the thumbs up, please. Please, please, please. If you're not donating, hit the thumbs up. Please, do one or the other.
A High Desert mother is now facing murder charges tonight in the death of her 10-year-old son. The case has led to outrage and questions about what child services did and didn't do to protect him. Tonight, KCOM's Jeff Nguyen with the story.
We know that her day will come when it's her time.
David Barron is talking about his sister.
Court will call the matter of Heather Maxine Barron.
Heather Barron, who appeared for the first time in a Lancaster courtroom charged with the murder, torture, and child abuse that led to the death of her 10-year-old son, Anthony Avalos.
Rest assured, my sweet baby boy, that you will always be loved, never forgotten.
Hours earlier, Anthony's relatives, along with their attorney, held a demonstration outside the offices of the...
You see how they had those signs up and it says, the system failed Anthony? Why don't they have signs and say that the mother failed Anthony? Is that an improper, incorrect, non-factual statement? Why can't we put the blame where it's supposed to be? Why can't we hold up signs and say the mother failed the children? Guys, let's think about this. Who chose the father and who chose the boyfriend, and who sat and watched all of these actions that the two of them did together on these poor baby children?
The Department of Children and Family Services, which says it got 12 calls regarding Anthony between 2013 and 2016. But the family says there were more complaints than that. And they say Anthony should have been taken away from his mom after so many red flags.
There was complaints made, things should have been done.
This comes after the...
And keep in mind, that dude that you just saw on the screen, that's the mother's brother. Her own brother is speaking out against her. That's very telling. The aunt is coming out against them, as well as her own brother. Her own flesh and blood brother is saying that justice needs to be served. That's very telling.
Things should have been done.
This comes after the arrest of Heather Barron's live-in boyfriend, Kareem Leyva, who was seen earlier in the week covering his face from our camera. Anthony was found unconscious at the couple's apartment. He died after being taken off life support. Detectives say the couple tortured the boy in the days leading up to his death.
Do you agree to that continuance?
Leyva wasn't in court because he's undergoing treatment for a self-inflicted cut to his upper body. He and Barron are expected to face a judge on Monday. Anthony's uncles and aunts will also be there to be his voice.
Anthony's going to get justice for all, not just himself, but for all kids.
8 children who were living with the couple and Anthony were removed from the apartment after his death. Bail has been set for Barron and Leyva at $2 million each.
How many children did they say? Sound like he said 8. I could be wrong.
The apartment after his death. Children who were be his voice.
Anthony's going to get justice for all, not just himself, but for all kids.
8 children who were living with the couple and Anthony were removed from the apartment.
Where did 8 children come from? Okay, I knew about Anthony Avalos. Then he had a younger brother and an even younger sister, from my understanding, because there was a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So 8, 7, 6, 5. Where did the other 5 children come from? How many other kids did she have? How many kids did he have? Ooh-wee. Can somebody post in the chat babies for benefits, please? Because think about this. Every time CPS showed up, they didn't know that a boyfriend was there. Why didn't they want a boyfriend to know? Why didn't they want to know that the boyfriend was there? Now that actually makes sense. Because if you guys think about it, it wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing if there were a man in the house if CPS shows up to show that they have financial balance and that they have a mother and a father in the home, supposedly. Just in the eyes of CPS. Okay? But if they report that to the state, then the state will then know that there is a man in the house and potentially other income, meaning that she would lose her benefits. Uh-oh. Can we get a babies for benefits in the chat? Is DJ Just Jay speaking some bull crap, or am I speaking facts right now? Which one am I doing? Let's keep going. How many children that they have in the house, bro? Say that for me one more time, because maybe I just misheard you.
So, but for all kids.
8 children who were living with the couple and Anthony were removed from the apartment after his death. Bail has been set for Barron and Leyva at $2 million each.
Hashtag babies for benefits. Have I been wrong? Have I been wrong yet?
Well, Pat, just moments ago, we learned that 32-year-old Kareem Leyva has been arrested in connection with the death of a 10-year-old boy in the Antelope Valley. Let's go ahead and roll you some video so you can get a look at Kareem Leyva. He covered his face as he left court in Lancaster yesterday.
What a goddamn coward.
This is the live-in boyfriend of Heather Barron, who is the mother of 10-year-old Anthony Avalos. Now, Leyva was arrested one day after attending the initial hearing regarding the removal of 6 children by the Department of Children and Family Services from the couple's home. The confidential proceeding was closed to the public. Now, it came after Anthony Avalos was found unconscious at his apartment last week. He died the next day after being taken off life support. A DCFS spokesman confirmed to us that Anthony had told his mother that he liked boys and girls and that DCFS is examining whether homophobia is a factor.
You guys hear that? Said he liked girls and boys. In what way? Why are they depicting this as sexual in a 10-year-old? It's so much wrong. It's so much wrong with this.
The agency also told us that Anthony arrived at the hospital before his death, and he was found with evidence of physical abuse, including signs of being severely beaten and malnourished. Today, the sheriff told us that that was grossly overstated. However, deputies do believe that the boy died from abuse. Now,
they said it was grossly overstated. I seriously doubt it. I seriously doubt that. Thomas Scott, that's a great question. Great question. How come he's not in handcuffs? Great question. S. We will see. Because one thing that I know, most people do not take kindly to child abuse. Let's keep going.
Couple charged in the death of a Lancaster boy is in court this morning. 28-year-old Heather Barron faces murder and torture charges for killing her 10-year-old son, Anthony Avalos.
Oh my God. Do y'all see this? Y'all see who's walking her up? Check this out. Let's watch this again.
Couple charged in the death of a Lancaster boy is in court this morning. 28-year-old Heather Barron faces...
You gotta be kidding me. Do you guys see this? Look who's defending the child abuser, the system abuser, and the murderer. The person responsible for this entire thing happening. Look who's on the front lines defending her. Oh my God, you can't make this up.
Barron faces
Look at this.
murder and torture charges for
Look at this. Are you kidding me?
killing her 10-year-old.
Come on. Come on. Look, guys, I didn't doctor this video. On the front lines. Now, how many of y'all would have caught that if I hadn't showed you this video on your own? How many of y'all would have saw that and caught that?
8-year-old Heather Barron
Look at that. Wow. 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 Just the fact that they know what she was accused of, most people would say, I'm gonna at least back up and let's see how this thing plays out. Because you're accused of some horrible stuff. So let me just back up. Let me just back up and see how this plays out in court. Because if you're guilty of this, I don't want to be associated with defending you.
faces murder and torture charges for killing. Heather Barron faces murder and torture charges for killing.
Guys, even when I'm trying to do stories on people outside of the black community, why is it that they insert themselves in my story anyway?
Morning, 28-year-old Heather Barron faces
Look at that.
murder and torture charges for Heather Barron faces murder and torture charges for killing her 10-year-old son, Anthony Avalos. Her boyfriend,
Guys, you can't make this up.
32-year-old Kareem Leva, also faces charges of murder and torture with an additional charge of assault. The Department of Children and Family Services reportedly received multiple complaints about the conditions and abuse inside that home before he died.
DCF failed. No, the mother failed that boy. That's who failed him. The mother did.
In the murder of 10-year-old Anthony Avalos, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge has just ordered the unsealing of grand jury transcripts in the case, which describe in detail what happened to Anthony during the last days of his life. Prosecutors told the grand jury that Anthony had bruises and abrasions all over his entire body, including around his face, his nose, and his forehead, even injuries to his feet. He also appeared to be thin, his ribs exposed, and he had small circular burns. The prosecutor also described the coroner's report, which said there was blunt force trauma to Anthony's head and his brain, and also multiple blunt force trauma to his body. Anthony's mother, Heather Barron, and her boyfriend, Kareem Leva, are charged with torturing and murdering the boy. The prosecutor told the grand jury that Barron and Leva beat Anthony with belts, a vacuum hose, and their fists. He says they tortured him with hot sauce and making him kneel on rice. He also says they would lock him in his room for days, not provide him with food or water, and made him fight his siblings. The defendants are not present during the grand jury proceeding, and there is no defense attorney either. These hearings were secret, and the transcripts sealed until the judge released them today.
But again, guys, this is what I have to say about this story at the end of the day. Again, if you guys are connected to the family or anything like that, you can always hit my email address and I'll respond to you guys. Like if you guys have any stories or anything like that, make sure don't send it by way of like if you donate, don't put the links in there or on my Instagram or my Messenger, because if you do, like I might tend to forget to go back and grab those stories from there. I know it seems like a very simple, almost a too simple place to send me the emails to my email address, but I check them every day. Send those stories or send the information to my email address. As you guys see, I respond to y'all pretty quick. Especially when you guys got simple questions, I can respond to you pretty quick. But again, this is another example of why it's important to have the biological mother and the biological father in the household. I seriously doubt if that biological father, as we saw in this story, would have allowed this to happen to his baby boy, period. Apparently he had some legal paperwork issues, which that happens sometimes. Matter of fact, there could be a lot of paperwork issues when it comes to fathers trying to get a hold and custody of their children. That happens a lot. Okay? But I seriously doubt if this thing would have happened if the father, which is right over there on that far right side, would have had just as much access to his child as the mother did. Again, that's the narrative that we have going on in the United States of America. We have a failure of the family. We have to have the mothers and fathers in the household. That's my 2 cents. I want to end this story right there and say thank you guys for coming through to watch the story. This is your boy DJ Just Jay.